Readers class, I want to remind you today for this chapter, chapter 2 in The Tiger Rising, that sometimes we have to read ourselves awake. Like when we're reading, we got to realize, we got to wake up. We got to really think deeply about this. We have to rouse ourselves up from being sleepy or just thinking not really deeply about the book. We've got to think deep about it. Remember, we have to become the characters. We have to see everything. Sometimes we have to push past the reality around us and just focus in on the book. Because when you can push into that book, everything in it becomes much more real and vivid. There's a book called The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. You might have heard of it. And in that book, there's a character named Lucy. Lucy finds this really unique wardrobe in a room. The wardrobe is a piece of furniture, and it's got these huge doors in the front of it that you can open wide. And inside, Lucy finds all of these fur coats, thick, long winter fur coats hanging in the wardrobe. And she decides it would be a good hiding place, so she steps into it. And as she's pushing between the long, heavy fur coats, she notices that there's a little bit of cold stuff on the ground, on the floor of it. She thinks, oh, that's kind of strange. She pushes further past the coats. Then she realizes she's feeling a cold brush of air, like a cold little breeze coming through. She keeps pushing further, and through the darkness behind at the end of the wardrobe, she notices in the distance this old lamp post with a light on at the top, a glowing lamp in the dark. But that's really far away. And she pushes further past the coats, and she feels something sharp and hard brush her arm. She notices it's actually not a coat, but the branch of a pine tree. And that's when she realizes that she has entered the world of Narnia in the book. It's a cold, wintry day. When we read books, we kind of have to push through, just like Lucy did in that wardrobe, to get to the other side, where there's a different reality waiting for us. Chapter 2. "Looky here," said Norton Threemonger as soon as Rob stepped onto the school bus. "It's the Kentucky Star. How's it feel to be a star?" Norton stood in the center of the aisle, blocking Rob's path. Rob shrugged. "Oh, he don't know," Norton called to his brother. "Hey, Billy, he don't know what it's like to be a star." Rob slipped past Norton. He walked all the way to the back of the bus and sat down in the last seat. "Hey," said Billy Threemonger, "you know what? This ain't Kentucky. This is Florida." He followed Rob and sat down right next to him. He pushed his face so close that Rob could smell his breath. It was bad breath. It smelled metallic and rotten. "You ain't a Kentucky Star," Billy said, his eyes glowing under the brim of his John Deere cap. "And you sure ain't a star here in Florida. You ain't a star nowhere." "Okay," said Rob. Billy shoved him hard, and then Norton came swaggering back and leaned over Billy and grabbed hold of Rob's hair with one hand, and with the other hand ground his knuckles into Rob's scalp. Rob sat there and took it. If he fought back, it lasted longer. If he didn't fight back, sometimes they got bored and left him alone. They were the only 3 kids on the bus until it got into town, and Mr. Nelson, the driver, pretended like he didn't know what was going on. He drove staring straight ahead, whistling songs that didn't have any melody. Rob was on his own, and he knew it. "He's got the creeping crud all over him," said Billy, He pointed at Rob's legs. "Look," he said to Norton. "Ain't it gross?" "Uh-huh," said Norton. He was concentrating on grinding his knuckles into Rob's head. It hurt, but Rob didn't cry. He never cried. He was a pro at not crying. He was the best not crier in the world. It drove Norton and Billy Threemonger wild. And today, Rob had the extra power of the tiger. All he had to do was think about it, and he knew there was no way he would cry. Not ever. They were still out in the country, only halfway into town, when the bus lurched to a stop. This was such a surprising development, to have the bus stop halfway through its route, that Norton stopped grinding his knuckles into Rob's scalp, and Billy stopped punching Rob in the arm. "Hey, Mr. Nelson," Norton shouted. "What you doing?" "This ain't a stop, Mr. Nelson," Billy called out helpfully. But Mr. Nelson ignored them. He kept whistling his non-song as he swung open the bus door. And while Norton and Billy and Rob watched, open-mouthed and silent, a girl with yellow hair and a pink lacy dress walked up the steps and onto the bus. So readers, remember, we have to read ourselves awake sometimes and push past everything to get to the real good stuff. So let's practice that together. I'm going to reread parts of that chapter. "Looky here," said Norton Threemonger as Rob stepped onto the school bus. "It's the Kentucky Star. How's it feel to be a star?" Norton stood in the center of the aisle, blocking Rob's path. Rob shrugged. "Oh, he don't know," Norton called to his brother. "Hey, Billy, he don't know what it's like to be a star." Rob slipped past Norton. He walked all the way to the back of the bus and sat down in the last seat. "Hey," said Billy Threemonger, "you know what? This ain't Kentucky. This is Florida." He pushed his face so close to Rob that Rob could smell his breath. It was bad breath. It smelled metallic and rotten. "You ain't a Kentucky Star," said Billy, his eyes glowing under the brim of his John Deere cap. "And you sure ain't a star here in Florida. You ain't a star nowhere." "Okay," said Rob. Billy shoved him hard, and then Norton came swaggering back and leaned over Billy and grabbed hold of Rob's hair with one hand and with the other ground his knuckles deep. Remember, when you read, to stay awake and thinking about everything, really focused. You gotta be a part of that story. You gotta feel like you're in the scene. That was fun what I just did. You can do that too when you practice reading on your own. Now, you don't have to act it out like I did. That was the fun part. But you should be thinking about it and seeing it. That's called a visualization, when you can see it in your mind, like it's a movie. Now, your assignment for today in teams is going to be to answer this question. Why does Rob not fight back? Why does he just take it and allow himself to be bullied? Because that's what's happening, right? Norton and Billy Threemonger, those boys, they're probably brothers. They're really cruel to him. So why does he let them do that? In order to answer that, you're going to have to make yourself become Rob so you can answer it really well. Good luck.